you very, very much for giving me again the immense pleasure of your company. When I was just starting as a national public servant, PICPA already invited me to speak before the membership at that time. And over the years, PICPA has invariably continued this routine. So today I come, although I'm a very sick person right now, to be able to say to the world that among the NGO communities, my best and possibly my closest friends are the members of the Philippine Institute of Certified Public Accountants. And as I show in just a few minutes, you have become instantaneously the most powerful NGO today. I will explain why. But we all know na kaiba talaga ang mga accountants. A physicist, a statistician, and an accountant applied for the same job position. The interviewers first called in the physicist. They asked, "What is 500 plus 500? The physicist said, 1,000. The statistician said, "I'm 99.9% confident that the answer is 1,000. The accountant said, "Anong number bang gusto niyo?" Alam naman ninyo, pagkatapos ng Disyembre, nagera patanay kami ng Senate President at yung kanyang kalyado. Itong mga poster boy, ang isang si poster boy ng stem cells treatment. And what you can do to ruin your judgment. And the other is poster boy na gusto ngayon maging presidente, maging chair or pangulo na naman ng isang extra-legal, outside the law organization, as I will explain. But, just to summarize, all my enemies have something in common. They all have a bad habit. Lahat sila humihinga pa. Hindi lang isa, dalawa silang lalaki. Nagsama-sama sila para kalabanin lang ako na nahiga pa sa kama at that time. Pero, sabihin ko sa mga kalaban ko ngayon, nagpapasalamat ako sa inyo. Dahil kayong dahilan kung bakit tayo hindi nilulusog ng aliens from outer space. Kasi hindi kasi kayo itinuturing na intelligent life form. Saka, sabihin ko doon sa mas bata na kalaban ko, sana sibuyas ka na lang.
Bakit?
Para kung umiyak man ako dahil sa iyo, at least, tinadtad naman kita. This morning, I read the newspapers, and I immediately fell ill. A nurse was called, and my blood pressure was taken at 180 over 100. That is very, very high. In fact, it should be terminal. Except that out of courtesy to you, I promise I will not die here. On the way here, I took my emergency pill, so now it is 150 over 90. For your information, the normal blood pressure is 120 over 80. And normally, high blood pressure should be attributed to a patient only if she hits 160 over 90. But this morning, as I told you, I started with 180 over 100, and after my emergency pill, it has just been taken a few minutes ago right here, it is now 150 over 90. So if I die, it will not be because of my high blood pressure, but because of my anger at these enemies of the Philippine Institute of Certified Public Accountants. Kasi biro mo nga naman, sa dyaryo ngayon, sa front page ng Inquirer, 5 senador ang kasangkot, or we shall call them persons of interest. We don't call them suspects now, we call them persons of interest. 5 senador ang kasangkot sa isang 10 billion peso scam. Billion, B, hindi million. 10 billion peso scam. B, as in, baboy talaga. Kasi meron palang NGO na kalapit sila sa bawat senador at maghingi ng pera ng pork barrel ng senador, PDAF, Priority Development Assistance Fund. Kung ano nung na-invento nilang pangalan, sabihin nyo na lang pork barrel or pwedeng nakawin. The Pwedeng Nakawin Fund or PNF. Hihingi sila ng pera at kaagad sasabihin nila sa senador o sa representative, congressman or congresswoman. Sabihin nila kaagad, ibabalik ko sa iyo ang 1/2 or 50% kung magkano man ang ibibigay mo sa proyekto namin. So, kung proyekto mo is worth 100 million and you agree that you will give them that amount, then the kickback that you would have paid to that senator would be 50% of 150 million for every signature. Hindi lang yon. Ang sabi ng Inquirer ngayong hapon, meron silang testigo, ang mismong kapatid at right-hand person nitong nagpapatakbo ng NGO. Kaya lang nag-away sila kasi lakas sila gumawa ng pera at hindi naman sila nagpapagawa pala ng proyekto. All of these projects are ghost projects. The government, through the senator, authorized the release of amounts in the millions of pesos for projects that were never constructed or even started. Oh, big pa, anong masasabi niyo? Bakit pa kayo papakahirap dyan sa mga statistika ninyo at sa mga numero ninyo? Gayahin na lang natin lahat na ginagawa nitong NGO na ito. Lumapit ka sa Senator Camo, Senator, di purihin mo muna. Bilib na bilib ako sa iyo. Ang gwapo mo. Punong-puno ka ng sex appeal. Kabibigyan kita ng 200,000 na butante pag tumakbo ka. Ngayon may proyekto, kung maliit lang naman, mga 200 million lang naman. Huwag ka nang magbahala pa. Ako na lahat. Para lang sa signature mo, bibigyan kita ng 50% of the value of the project. At may mga pumapayag according to the eyewitness. Kasi dalawang magkapatid yan sa NGO na yan. Ngayon nakita ng isa, napakadali palang kumita ng pera, kaya nitangka siya na magnegosyo din siya. Nagalit itong ate niya o kapatid niya, kaya nag-away sila. Kaya lumitaw ngayon ang totoo. Ngayon, ang sabi nitong eyewitness, ganito. Sabi niya, ganito ang pinamigay na pera sa pork barrel nitong mga senador na ito. Now remember that according to this whistleblower, the way to get the signature or the authorization of the senator or the congressman was to promise half of the project cost. O, ngayon, accountants, abel, makita niyo ang abilidad niyo. Ito mga pinagbigay nila. Senator Ramon Revilla Jr., 1.017 billion pesos because he released projects to this NGO 22 times. Hindi lang minsan, ha? In the space of 10 years, 22 times, allegedly, binigyan ni Bong Revilla ng artista. Ng halagang 1 billion. Kaya, ano ngayon? Ang 50% ng 1 billion. Huwag na mong sabihin, ano bang... Anong number ang gusto mo? Eh di kung totoo yun, yung kickback doon is 500 million. Hindi mo ba?
Yes.
Ganun lang kadali. Naghanap buhay ibang tao, umulan, uminit, lalabas ka. At pag uwi mo, pagod na pagod ka, dadaan ka pa sa battle zone called the traffic problem in Metro Manila. Nakikipag-away ka, kung minsan nagpapatayan pa kayo. Tsaka kung ikaw naman ang housewife, bilang na bilang mo pera mo pag Sabado, dahil mamalengke. Papunta pa sa groceries, halos lahat ng bilihin tumataas, wala kang magagawa. Tapos mabasa mo sa television, the oil companies have lowered the price of gasoline and petroleum products. Then the next week, they have raised the price. The week after that, they lowered it. Accountants, what do you have to say about this? Naloko tayo itong mga ito Sabi ko nga doon sa abogado sa impeachment na talagang iniinis ako, nangangamon ka. Sabi niya, sabihin mo nga anong gusto mo. Sabi niya, gusto ko na lang nababas dito. Ay, wala. Nabuko siya doon sa rap. Tapos kinagaya-gaya niya kung lalagyan niya ng takip ng tenga niya. Si Ramon Revilla, 1.017 or let's just say over 1 billion pesos. The former Senate President, my very good friend, my wedding sponsor, who never showed up during my wedding. Mabuti pa si Aquino Sr., the late senator, who was physically present and even invited me to join his staff, except that I begged off because I'd already been awarded a scholarship to take my master's and my doctorate in the United States. Pero ito, by absentee, Ninang, 641.65 million because he gave this NGO money for ghost projects 21 times. And he prides himself on being an expert in taxation and finance. Ulitin ko, 641.65 million. Jose Jingoy Estrada, 585 million. He gave projects to this NGO 18 times. Ferdinand Marcos Jr., 100 million. He gave projects to this NGO 4 times. And Gregorio Honasan, parang si Riley Jr. yan eh. Pag nandyan si Riley, nandyan din si Honasan, sama-sama sila. Hindi ba? Ang mga high socialites, sila pwedeng lumabas, hindi nila dala-dala yung mga tuta nila. O Honasan, 15 million. Maliit lang. Only one time. Ay, kung ako kay Honasan, kukuha ako ng abogado. Bakit yung iba bilyon? Ako lang 15 million. At nabago masyado itong kaibigan mong si Grega. That's why early in the morning, I almost fell down dead in my own house. Biro mo yun, magsisilbi ka, tapos tawagin ka ng anong pagbumura at masamang salita ng isa na nakalista dito, ganun pala kalaking nanakaw niya. Kasi ganito yon. Of course, there is a presumption of innocence in favor of an accused person. That is a presumption. That's why the evidence of proof is on the prosecution. You and I are presumed to be innocent when we are charged, and it is not our duty to defend ourselves unless the prosecution has presented evidence against us. But that is only proof of innocence. Ngayon, or presumption of innocence. Ngayon, in the course of a trial, iba pa ang standard of evidence. Meron kang standard of proof, which would be proof beyond reasonable doubt, meron ka pa sa listahan ng standard of evidence. Palit-palit yan. Pag nagbigay ng ebidensya ang kalaban mo, ngayon magbigay ka naman ng ebidensya, kaya palit-palit yan. Siguro kung anong latest evidence na napakita mo. Alam ko yan dahil naging RTC judge ako eh. In fact, sa buong Senado, ako lang ang naupo at nagtiyaga sa trial court sa Quezon City. Sari-sari ring mga tao at forms of lower life forms. Doon nakasinuba ko. Yung mga nag-declaim dyan sa Senado na galing-galing nila sa batas, hindi pumasok yan sa courtroom. At ang alam nila, lumang-luma ng mga batas kasi hindi na sila nag-aral uli eh. Kaya, pag sinabihan mo, ito na ang bagong teorya, sasabihin nila, ano yun? Hindi ko narinig yun ah. Hindi naman sila bingi. Illiterate lang sila. Yan, ukali yan. Itong kaibigan kong ito. Eh, sino may kasalanan? Ako? Ngayon, mayroon silang presumption of innocence or presumption that they are innocent of these charges. Pero, sa ngayon, merong ebidensya ang dyaryo. Dahil hindi man yung lalagay, dahil isusu sila, didemanda sila for libel. Kaya, meron silang eyewitness na nagpa-identify ng sarili niya. At gumawa siya ng affidavit. Affidavit means that you are saying something under oath. When you say something under oath, then if it turns out to be false, you incur criminal liability. Plus, siguro yung eyewitness na yun, meron pa siyang supporting documents. Kaya siya nakakagawa ng ganon affidavit. So, all of this, ang affidavit ng isang tao na under oath, plus ang supporting documents niya to support his affidavit are called, in lawyer's language, prima facie evidence. Ang mga abogado, hilig-hilig ng mga Latin. Hindi nila alam dito sa Pilipinas, hindi na usong Latin sa abroad. Prima facie means on its face. Pag mumukha pa lang, alam mo na may kasalanan. Ngayon, meron tayong prima facie case. Dito sa Inquirer article today, tingnan nyo ngayon. There's a prima facie case against these senators. Kaya, kung may delikadesa sila, mag-leave sila immediately. Dahil hindi na ma-investigate ito ng Senado habang nandiyan sila. Iyak-iyak yan sila sa mga on the shoulders of their fellow senators or then cash in their chits. Meaning to say, kung ano mga favors nila ginawa sa mga senador na kasama nila, hindi yan maka-investigate sa kanila ng matino dahil lalapitan nila. So, ito dapat investigahin ng isang independent agency. Ngayon ang problema sa Ombudsman ay, under the Ombudsman Act, which was written by Congress, the Ombudsman has no jurisdiction over the Senate. You cannot file an Ombudsman case against a senator. And under the Constitution, you cannot remove a senator by impeachment. Under the Constitution, you can remove by impeachment certain officers who are enumerated, but the senators are not included. Oh. So, hindi mo yan matanggal by means of a Senate hearing, by means of filing a charge in the Ombudsman. Oh, ngayon sasabihin mo, ay didemanda natin sila sa Department of Justice para imbestigahan sila ng NBI. Maniwala ka, takot bang NBI sa mga senador? Eh, senador, ang NBI kayang-kayang sigawan ng senador sa public hearing eh. May hilig silang pasiklab. At ganon sila kapangyarihan, pwede nang tanggalin ng taong sa NBI na yan o kaya ipa-assign doon sa Mindanao, sa fighting combat zone. Ganon ka, napakamangyarihan, ganon ang kapangyarihan ng isang senador. Kaya masyadong importante sa ating bayan na ipa-imbestiga ito. Plus, dapat mabilis ang pag-imbestiga. Hindi na 10 taon, wala pa rin decision. Because justice delayed is justice denied. Kung daang matuwid ang sinusunod natin, di dapat si President Aquino today should form a special panel of prosecutors concerning plunder cases, including and primarily this one. Ang lalaki ng halaga, plunder yun. Para independent yun, dapat merong, kamukha sa Amerika, may special prosecutor talaga yan. Dapat ang panel prosecutors should consist of retired justices. Dahil retired na sila, wala na silang hingin pa. Takot din yung mamatay yan, baka gusto pa nga nila. Kaya masakit sila. Kaya hindi ko na pili yan. Ani nila yan, hindi lang nila lang kabaong yan eh. But, it should be composed to be more serious with well-known, prestigious, and honest public officials. Number one, former Justice of the Supreme Court Amorfino Melencio Herrera, granddaughter ni Emilio Aguinaldo. Cum laude, bar top notch. Kaya lang baka ayaw, dahil may sakit na sila. Justice Florida Ruth Romero, Professor Oyon. There's always been very honest in our perceptions of politics. But neither woman has ever been in politics. So it should be a retired justice who has never been in politics. Yan. Gumawa ka lang tatlo para hindi sila mag-tie. Gumawa ka lang ng tatlo, investigahin mo kaagad ito. Itong mga listahan dyan sa front page ng Inquirer. Malalaman mo na eh. As I said, there is prima facie evidence. Kasi prima facie is a term that means on the face of the document, you can tell that there is some evidence against the accused. So you make a recommendation, the fiscal or the prosecutor will then make a recommendation to the court to file the formal complaint in court. Basta, dapat ganon. Mag-resign sila kaagad. O, not necessarily resign. Resign sana, yun ang gusto ko. Kung gusto niya ang pamilyan. Pero kung ayaw, mag-leave of absence sila for delicadeza. Para makita hindi nila gagamitin ang pwesto nila sa Senado para matakot nila, o masindak nila, o mabili nila ang testigo laban sa kanila. But the most important thing is that justice must be seen to be done by the public right away. Maski gaano ka tuwid ang daan mo, kung late ang pagbigay mo ng katarungan, under the adage, justice delayed is justice denied, then the people will no longer be convinced that this administration is serious about its anti-corruption drive. Yan ang akin tungkol dyan sa balita ngayon. Ngayon, my speech is formally entitled Transparency in the Use of Ceremonies. Ito sa pangkumba. Malalaman nyo ngayon, magkano kinikita ng senador. Akala nyo, poor lang ako ah. Mamaya, lalaman mo lahat ng sekreto nila. Inabangan talagang paalis na ako sa International Criminal Court. At saka, nag-aantay talaga ako ng kapalaran ko sa buhay. Baka mamaya isa dito sa mga binabanggit ko ay mademanda doon sa International Criminal Court. Hindi ako mag-iinhibit. Principle of transparency. The principle of fiscal transparency is defined by the International Monetary Fund as, quote, the clarity, reliability, frequency, timeliness, and relevance of public fiscal reporting and the openness to the public of the government's fiscal policy-making process. Kaya dapat alam natin, in my proposed Magna Carta of Philippine Internet Freedom, I propose na lahat na tungkol sa pera dapat katungkulan ng ahensya na may hawak niyan, na ilagay lahat dyan sa internet para makita ng lahat ng Pilipino kung magkano pera, saan pumupunta. Pero sa senador na ako, ayaw akong pagsabihan. Kaya ito, I will share with you. Pinanakaw ko na lang. Usap ako mabuti, ayaw hold the government, and particularly, in this case, the Senate, to account for its fiscal performance and the use of public resources. Government transparency is also defined as the ability of the Filipino public to gain access to the facts, figures, documents, decisions, and other aspects of government. History shows that corrupt governments have always sought to limit transparency. Controlling information is central to maintaining political power. Hence, leaders of authoritarian regimes refuse to explain the mechanics of the state apparatus to their subjects. All this changed with the American Revolution in 1771 to 1783 and with the French Revolution in 1789 to 1999. As a result, transparency entered the political discourse as a priority for our government and the citizens. The modern paradigms of transparency are the system of checks and balances among the three branches of government, and the role of the press in fighting for increased access to public officials and their public policy decisions. I take this opportunity to reiterate my support for the proposed Freedom of Information Act. We need to increase the transparency of government actions and the motivations of public officials, especially senators. I wish to make it a record that I am against certain exceptions to transparency because I believe these exceptions constitute a channel for the desire of government to still protect its power through the restriction of information to the public. Such exemptions include bureaucratic red tape and other techniques invoking national security. Ang mga sanay sa martial law, yun ang rason nila kung bakit ayaw nila, hindi raw nila pwedeng ipaliwanag sa publiko anong ginagawa nila. National security. Lahat na lang national security, pati pambahay nila national security. And asserting executive privilege or hiding behind an official secrets law. All of these claimed exceptions are simply the efforts of politicians to protect their power by not allowing the public to know their actions while they are in office. I strongly advocate to you, as distinguished members of the Institute of Certified Public Accountants, to compel elected officials to observe the principle of accountability. Pumasa kaya kayo ng resolution na itong mga naka-banner headline ngayon sa dyaryo ay mag-live na sila kaagad-agad to follow the principle of act now, accountability, credibility, transparency. Then take it out in the media and put it on social media. Kasi, kung bayaan mo lang, kailan naman yan mag-live of absence? Kailangan hilahin mo yung nakahiga eh. Kakapit pa. Mag-English pa sila mag-English doon sa Senado para kung naintindihan talaga rin ang sinasabi nila. Grabe naman. I was so healthy before I entered the Senate. I look at me, I'm a wreck. Specifically, every senator should acknowledge and assume responsibility for his elected position, including the responsibility to report and justify. Report and justify the consequences of actions taken within the scope of his role as senator. If these responsibilities are not met, then there should be sanctions for Senate officers who fail to meet their responsibility to report and justify in using public funds. I will explain to you. Itong paliwanag ko na sinabi ko kanya, bigla kayo naging powerful. Biro mo yan? Philippine Institute of Certified Public Accountants, ibig sabihin buong bansa yon. At accountants, ibig sabihin mga technical experts kayo. At sinasabi nyo ito dahil ang paksa natin ay tungkol sa transparency or accountability or ang papaalam sa publiko kung paano ginagamit ang pera ng gobyerno. Pag nagsalita kayo gayon, kayo ang mga experts doon, makikinig kami lahat sa inyo. Kaya, you have suddenly become the most knowledgeable sources of wisdom concerning these controversies. I strongly urge you to seize this opportunity because it does not always arise. Sometimes the scandals do not impact accounting or accountability. Sometimes they impact on something else. So this is your big window to show the public how powerful you can be in expressing the voice of the Filipinos. Your institute has the unique ability to hold senators and congressmen responsible for their actions in their official capacities with respect to the use of public funds. The institute should base this role as actors in civil society by invoking the two accepted theories of accountability, the principal agent theory and the theory of moral responsibility. Under the principal agent theory, the principal is the voter who selects his agent, meaning the senator, to choose actions that benefit the interest of the principal or the public. Under the agency theory, senators should increase accountability by making their actions on public funds more observable to their constituents. As for the moral responsibility model of accountability, the Institute should focus on internal feelings of obligation and duty that the Senate should inculcate in its members. The principle of transparency has been officially adopted by the Philippine Constitution in two provisions. The first provision is found under the Bill of Rights and provides, quote, the right of the people to information on matters of public concern shall be recognized, unquote. Kaya sa Constitution talaga, hindi yan inibento lang ng isang ahensya o ng kung ilan lang ng mga opisyal publiko. Ito talagang constitutional provision. The right of the people to information on matters of public concern. Kaya sinabi ko lang naman, nung Pasko, ang Senate President namigay ng 1.6 billion ng pera ng taong bayan, pera ng Senado. So bawat senator dahil Christmas gift daw niya yan. In-exclude niya ako at tatlo pang apat dahil makalaban niya kami. Biro mo yon, gamitin mo ang pera ng publiko na para bang pera mo. Dahil Christmas, namigay daw siya ng Christmas gift niya. Pagkatapos, hindi pa sa lahat. In-exclude pang apat, nakalaban niya. Ewan mo kung anong galit niya sa akin, kulang yata ako sa sex appeal. Kasi may hilig eh. Tapos, napapanggapan pa na marunong lang siyang abogado. Hindi niya ba alam na sa Constitution yan? The right of the people to information on matters of public concern. Kung puntahan ako ng media, tanungin ako, I have an obligation to tell the truth. Apart from this provision in the Constitution, I am a practicing Christian. I do not tell a lie. Tapos inamin niya, tama yan, sabi niya. Kasi ayaw ko sila. Yun ang paliwanag niya. Kasi sabi niya, yung funds na yun, discretionary. Anong pinagsasabi niya? In the Constitution itself, there is a provision that says discretionary funds should be spent for public purposes under guidelines provided by law. Ulit may discretionary funds. Kaya hindi naman ibig sabihin pamigay mo sa gusto mo. Kung hindi, you must use it for a public purpose and you must use it as much as possible under certain criteria that you have announced previously. Hindi ba? Dapat ganon? Kung bigyan ka ng pera ng gobyerno, o bahala ka na dyan. Nag-graduate ka naman sa CPA board, alam mo yon. Hindi naman ibig sabihin, bibigay maski sino para kaninong gusto mo at maski anong panahon. You have to use the funds for a public purpose. Eh, ito nabigay siya ng 1.6 million, ayaw ibigay sa akin at sa tatlo pa. Dahil ayaw daw niyang pagmumukha namin. Is that a public purpose? Actually, namigay ng ganyan kalaki dahil gusto niya, tumakbo siya for re-election as Senate President. How do you say? I exploded that myth that he was trying to create. Pagkatapos, binalik pa niya ang Christmas present ko na biskwit. Spanish times pa yun eh. So I ordered the required number of, it used to be in a can. It's now in a big box. The required number of boxes of those biscuits for distribution to my fellow senators because natural, pag Pasko, nag-exchange gifts naman din kami. Eh, biro mo, biscuit lang pinalik pa niya. The second provision states, public office is a public trust. Public offices and employees must at all times be accountable to the people. So I call on these 5 senators, be accountable to the people. Totoo ba na tinanggap niyo itong pera na ito? Dahil merong testigo dito na nagsusumpa na sasabihin niyang totoo at yan ang sinasabi niya. Ano masasabi mo ngayon? Pag wala kang masabi, dahil sigurado bukas yan, lahat yan sila magsasabi mo, wala silang kinaalam doon. Pag wala kang masabi, mag-leave of absence ka muna for delicadeza. Anyway, with pay yun eh. Sources of income of a senator. Oh, ito na nga yan. Take out your ball pens and pad paper. These are the sources of income of a senator. Salary of a senator, 90,000, based on the salary standardization law. 90, yes, 90. The gross amount is 90,000 a month, but after deductions, the take-home pay is about 60,000 a month. 60,000? Hindi nga yan makabili nitong barong ko eh. Eh, lalo na yung suot ng iba. Oh, kaya hindi lang yun. That is just a camouflage. It's like a submarine. Nakikita ang submarine, di ba? Maliit lang. Pero ang submarino sa ilalim ng dagat ay napakalaki. O, itong submarino. Honorarium as a Senate officer. Who are the Senate officers? President, Vice President, Majority Leader, Minority Leader, 4 yan sila. Plus the Secretary, 4 yan sila. May honorarium sila. In addition to what is being paid to us, meron pa. Pagkatapos, bawat senador, binibigyan ng pera, kamukha nito. Monthly funds for personal services. Yung ibabayad sa sweldo ng mga tauhan niya. Monthly funds for the MOOE. This is the notorious MOOE, which is actually functioning as discretionary funds of every senator. It stands for maintenance and other operating expenses. Meaning to say, kung mag-upa ka ng satellite office mo dahil maliit yung Senate building, at hindi naman Senate building talaga yan, eh, building ng GSIS yan, nangungupa kami doon. Bakit pa? Ang laki na pinangupa namin doon eh. Nag-authorize kami sa budget ng kung magkano para sa makapatayo ng opisina ng ibang tao, pero ayaw nila magpatayo ang sarili nila, kundi pilit silang nangungupa sa GSIS. Eh bakit ganun? Ang layo-layo pa sa publiko. Oh. Siguro merong nagmamahal talaga sa GSIS. Dahil di ba? Pagmahal mong tao, kung minsan, kung meron kang kapangyarihan, bibigyan mo ng negosyo. Oh, hulaan yun. Bakit na doon kami nag-uupa? Ang laki-laki ng binabayad namin, buwan-buwan, pinapataba lang namin o pinapayaman lang namin ang GSIS. Sino ang pasimuno noon? At sino ang galit na galit pag sinabi ng ibang senador kamukha ko, magpatayo tayo ng atin. Saka dapat malapit ang House of Representatives at ang Senado dahil palagi kaming merong mga bicameral committees. Ibig sabihin, may members sa Senate, may members sa House, kaya the poor representatives have to travel all the way across town. Yan ka lang ha. Travel allowance, international. Every senator gets an international travel allowance every year. Mamaya sabihin ko sa inyo kung magkano, pero hulaan niyo muna. Capital outlay. Additional MOOE. We already saw the MOOE, ha? Meron pag additional yan. Yan ang tawag talaga dyan. Additional MOOE. If you're a member of a permanent committee, you get an honorarium. Ang dami naming honoraria. Kung mga sundalo kami, medalya namin siguro 2 rows na. Kasi kaliwat kanan ng honorarium ng senador eh. If you're a member or chair of oversight committees, if you're a member of the Commission on Appointments, and if you're a member of the Senate Electoral Tribunal. Ngayon, here is the important point. According to the 2011 COA Audit Report of the Senate, walang 2012 report dahil may away pa yan eh. Ito lang 2011, tapos na. According to the 2011 COA report, a regular senator, meaning one who is not a Senate officer, remember, 4 silang Senate officers, each senator, kamukha ko, received some 43 million pesos per annum for alleged office expenses. 43 million. That's the average. Of course, these are all averages because I can't give the exact number or the exact amount for every senator. More or less for office expenses, including the salaries of his or her personnel. Every senator is given 43 million per annum. 43 million, ha? Hindi yan personal income ng senator. He's supposed to be using it for the expenses of his office. This income basically came from the funds, which are called in the budget office of the senator, plus the funds for permanent committees to which the senator belonged. But, in addition to 43 million per annum na tinatanggap ng bawat senador, ang 4 na opisyal, meron pang additional na honoraria. Ito. Dahil dati, sa 2011, iba pa ang mga opisyal. Senate President Juan Ponce Enrile, remember that name? I paste it under my pillow every night. Entertaining homicidal thoughts. Senate President Juan Ponce Enrile, in addition to the 43 million every year due to every senator, Senate President Juan Ponce Enrile, 71.7 million. 71 million. Dagdag yun sa 43 niya. 71 million more or 166% more than other senators. Bakit? Ewan ko. Nobody knows. No one knows. Kasi siya rin ang nakokontrola kung magkano bibigay niya sa sarili niya. Binibigyan niya ang sarili niya 166% more than other senators. Senate Pro Tempore Jingo Estrada, 9.3 million or 21.69% more. Majority Leader Vicente Soto 3, 9.3 million or 21.64% more. Minority Leader Alan Cayetano, 10.2 million or 23% more. So more or less, ang mga opisyal sa 4 na yon, 20% more sila dahil opisyal sila. Pero ang Senate President, hindi natin maintindihan bakit ang kanya 166%. Ngayon, hulaan mo dito sa 43 million plus this additional honoraria for the officers. Magkano dyan talaga ang ginagastos ng senador at magkano dyan ang ninakaw niya? What? Are you stunned? Sa akin lang siguro 3 million ang ginagastos, pagkatapos 40 million ang nakaw. 3 plus 40, di 43. Kasi walang nag-audit eh. Each regular senator is given funds in the approximate amount of 63 million per annum, but the senators collectively control and are accountable only for 47.49% of the total Senate budget. Kasi yan lang binibigay sa amin, 43 million per annum. So to that extent lang ang control namin sa aming budget. Ikukontrola mo yung expenses mo. May personal services dyan ng staff mo. May pambayad ng upa ng extension office mo. May pambayad ng utilities like light, water, power, etc. Mayroon kang bibili na office supplies mo. So you're given this much money. Question lang dyan is, talaga pag ginagastos yan para sa mga items na yon o nanakaw yan? At saka, kung itotal mo itong amount, kami mga senador, we only control less than 50%, only 47.49% of the total Senate budget. Here, ladies and gentlemen of the PIPA, here is the deep, dark secret. The Senate President controls the remaining 52.51% of the Senate budget, or the total amount of 1.7 billion for 2013. Kanya yun, paggastos niya. Siya lang ang magpipirma dyan. Hindi man kami kinukonsulta, hindi man kami mini-meeting. Siya lang, nagdedesisyon. In the year 2013, that Senate President would control 1.7 billion. Independently of all the other senators. Yun ang ginawa ni Enrile habang Senate President siya. Kaya ang yabang ang arrogante pa. Dahil ganyan karaming pera niya. Pag sinagot mo siya, pasira ka sa mga nagpapabili na media practitioners. Thus, when Enrile was Senate President, he controlled over 50% of the Senate budget. But he proved that with great power comes great conceit. And perhaps megalomania. Kasi gusto niyang purihin siya lang nakaalam ng batas. Anong batas ang alam niya? Tax and financing. Pag sinabing expert ako in constitutional international law, nagagalit siya. Ayun ang expertise ko eh. The amounts paid to and expenses incurred for each senator. I obtained these figures covering the period January to December 2011 from the Commission on Audit, COA figures ito. Here are the amounts from Senate funds paid to every senator in the descending order of the amounts for 2011. Binigyan kasi kami ng pera para sa aming alleged office expenses. In descending order of amounts yun ha. For 2011, 1 year lang ito. According to the COA. Number 1, 1.7 million, 118 million. Yan ang alleged office expenses niya. 2, Jingo Estrada, 62 million. Biro mo yun? Si Enrile, top notcher, 118. Ang kasunod sa kanya, nagalamay din niya, kalahati lang, 62 million. Kasi tatay siya nila, nanganganak siya ng nanganganak. Vicente Soto 3, 56 million. Alan Peter Cayetano, 55 million. Kasi nga, 4 silang officers, kaya una rin sila. Ngayon hindi ko maintindihan ito. Antonio Trillanes, 54.9 million. Kabago-bago niya sa Senado, number 5 na siya sa ginastos niya. Ang pagkaintindi ko siguro, na pinabigyan siya ng pera ng ganito ng Enrile para masakop niya sa military empire niya. Napansin ba ninyo na dahil dati siyang Minister of Secretary of Defense ng martial law, basta may militar, gusto niya sakupin niya yung taong yun. Si Onasan, si Lacson, si Trillanes. Pero ngayon kalaban na niya. Next, Ferdinand Marcos Jr., 49 million. Ramon Revilla Jr., 49 million. Francis Escudero, 48.7. Gregorio Onasan, 47 million. Francis Pangilinan, 46 million. Loren Ligarda, 44 million. Aquilino Pimentel Jr., 43.9 million. Manuel Lapid, 43.5 million. Ralph Recto, 42 million. Edgardo Engara, 41.7 million. Jofisto Gingona Jr., 41.5 million. Miriam Defensor Santiago, 41 million. Manny Villar, 40 million. Sergio Menya 3, 37.6 million. Panfilo Lacson, 37 million. Franklin Drilon, kalaban niya kasi. Gusto rin mag-Senate President ng isang yun. Kaya, binigyan niya sarili niya ng 118 million at yung kalaban niya na si Drilon, binigyan niya 34.9 million. And finally, Joker Arroyo, 31.8 million. To summarize, the senator who received and spent the most Senate funds was Senator Enrile, with 118 million for the year 2011 alone. The senators spent the smallest amount for that year was Senator Arroyo at 31.8 million. Most of the senators received in the upper 40 million. And I received 41 million. Sources of income in actual figures. I gave you a few minutes ago, in effect, a table of the sources of income of a regular senator. My figures are based on averages because senators have variable number of staff. Hindi naman kami pare-pareho eh. At minsan, mga ghost employees nila yun. Sila rin ang nagsusweldo. Sinisweldohan nila, sila rin yun. Tapos, meron pa silang mga empleyada, mga kamag-anak nila na talagang hindi nakikita sa opisina. Hindi bale kung kamag-anak mo dahil ganyan kalaki ang perang hawak mo eh. Kaya kung minsan ang Pilipino, mas gusto niyang kamag-anak niyan may hawak. Hindi ba? Dahil sa tingin natin, mas mapagkatiwalaan. Pero, not always, the Filipinos don't always act that way. Because husbands are forever keeping their money away from their wives. Anyway, makikita mo sa Senado, may mga asawa, mga anak, hindi na nung kamag-anak. Tapos hindi nakikita ng Senate staff, pero tumatanggap ng sweldo. Ganon yun. Senators have variable number of staff, variable number of membership in overseas committees, and other dissimilarities. Iba-iba. The funds for monthly expenses in the office of the senator consist of the following. Capital outlay, 16 million. Monthly, 16 million. 16 monthly for capital outlay. Ipunin mo lang, makapabili ka na ng Rolls Royce. Dahil may Rolls Royce na sa Pilipinas, ay 30 million ang pinakamura. Travel allowance, monthly, 59 million. Savings. If the office of the senator is able to set aside savings, they are realigned.